How are you doing this evening? Welcome, Dee. Can you hear me okay? There is Miss Linda. How are you this evening? Hey, Dee. Tell me about the prize that you won. Dee, can you tell me about the prize that you won?
Well, I got a T-shirt.
You did?
I just heard you. Yeah, I got a T-shirt for the Better Health Challenge for that. So, and
Congratulations! That's awesome.
Twice last week. I was so excited about that.
You did. What did you get?
I haven't gotten it yet. I think the first one is some glucogel because that was one of the things that I talked about how much I loved so much. But I'm not sure what the other one is. So
wonderful.
Now I'm in here twice, so let me get out of this one.
Okie doke. Terrific. Wonderful, wonderful. Melissa, happy belated birthday.
Hey, thank you so much.
How was your event last week?
It was great. It was really, really good. We had about 10 people there, and it was at my mom's house.
Good.
And so we're going to have one every second Thursday of every month. So I'm kind of excited about that.
So you've overcome your fear?
I'm working on that. It went really well. Kelsey, my upline, came down, and I did the first 3 parts, and then she did the rest.
Wonderful.
So it was good.
Kelsey Britton?
Uh-huh.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, you couldn't have better leadership, so that's fabulous.
Yeah.
Good.
So it was good, and it was a great time.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Good. Very, very
We're
good.
doing them every second Thursday of every month. So
good. Well, we'll miss you every other Thursday, but I'm glad that
it'll just be once a month.
Yeah.
The second Thursday of each month.
Okay.
So it'll just be once a month. So
okay. Yeah. Perfect. Well, that'll be good. All right. Well, we will miss you. And you can always go and listen to the recording on mastersoфenrollment.com. So
yes, I'm going to do that.
Perfect.
Yep.
Great.
Yep.
Hello, my dear sweet Peggy. How are you?
Wonderful. How is your week going?
Terrific. Terrific. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
Is Hanny coming back soon, or is she still staying there for a little bit more?
She is flying back on the 21st, which is actually the 20th for us, but it's the 21st for her. And I will see her the 25th.
Oh, how wonderful. That is great.
So I will be going up to New York, and it'll be awesome. We'll work with the team there.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Great. And Miss Lanny, I saw you jump on.
Yes, I did.
How are you, honey bun?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I'm happy to see you here.
I've got about 3 different things going on right now.
Oh, boy, you're going to have to forget about that because that's part of what we're learning today. Just you wait.
Yeah.
Marianne, you made it. You've got your other glasses on and you're safe and sound.
My readers. I'm getting my hair cut just before we go on the tack trip, and I'm trying to let it, like the bangs grow out and stuff. It's so painful.
Yeah, I'm getting my hair done next Friday.
Clip. All right. I'm going to go get a little clip. I'll be right back.
Okie doke. And who else? Vincent, we didn't get to say hello to you yet. How are you? Okay. And Sheila, I see that Sheila is here. Are you driving?
Nope, I'm sitting in my car.
Okay. Well, stay warm. Where are you calling from?
Ocala, Florida.
Oh my. Yeah, we're a little chilly, aren't we?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
In the 30s.
Yeah, we've got a hard freeze warning again for tonight. It's supposed to get down to 27. However, I don't think that the wind chill is going to be quite as bad as it was last night at 16.
I know, yeah.
that was pretty scary. Well, good. Well, glad to have you here. And Miss Colleen, I see you, sweetheart. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Cold.
And you didn't get your car back. I saw. Nope.
Nope.
No, we're mad at the Ford people for you. I'm very disappointed that they didn't change their website to reflect that they would not be open today. So I'm sorry you made the trip.
Yeah.
Bummer. I bet you guys
Colleen, where in North Carolina are you?
We're in Shelby,
Okay.
but we had to go to Charlotte to go pick up my car that died 2 weeks ago.
Oh, no.
And Colleen, you know Peggy's in North Carolina as well.
Yeah, we had.
We have to hook up.
You're over near Raleigh, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did anybody say hi to Dee?
Yeah.
Yes.
My cousin lives out in Wake Forest.
Oh, I'm not far from there at all. I go there all the time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. All right, kiddos. Well, it's 8:00, so we are just about getting ready to get started. And there were a few of you that weren't able to be on last week. And last week we started out the beginning of the book, kind of the introductory parts. We started out chapters 1, 2, and 3, which were the one thing, the domino effect, and success leaves clues. And the one thing I want to leave with, oh, hi, Diane. How are you?
Good.
I want to remind you how we ended out that chapter is that the one thing sits at the heart of success and is the starting point for achieving extraordinary results. And explaining it is easy, buying into it can be tough. And then he goes on to say, before we can have a frank heart-to-heart discussion about how the one thing actually works, he wants to openly discuss the myths and misinformation that keep us from accepting it. They are called the lies of success. These are going to be very, very familiar things. And Lanny brought one of them up today, so we'll be talking about that. But once we banish these from our minds, we can take up the one thing with an open mind and a clear path. And as we've talked about before, we've got our 65 days and a wake up, which is a great example of focusing on a very important one thing. And if you are not yet a part of the group, I highly recommend that you do become a part of that group as a part of our Longevity family. And so those of us who've been through it, we know it's really, really tough the day one when you get started, and that those first few days or few weeks as you get started up. Hello, Dana. When we get going, then all of a sudden things start to fall into place. And we'll talk about that today as well in this. So we're going to begin part 1, the lies, they mislead and derail us. Okay, and it goes on to say that this is the trouble with truthiness, and it's a quantitative exercise with some qualitative feedback. And it goes on to say that truthiness captures all of the incidental, accidental, and even intentional falsehoods that sound just truthy enough for us to accept as true. And so it may have some grains of truth in it, but the overall reality is that there is falseness that's happening, okay? The problem is we tend to act on what we believe even when what we believe isn't anything we should. Buying into the one thing becomes difficult because we've unfortunately bought into too many others. So, right, we have to clear the space before we can add to it, right? Doesn't that make sense? It's often like we have a thing called the Swero cleanse, and it's a great thing to cleanse your system, purge it of all the impurities so that you can allow the good things to come in and become a part of you. So if you can kind of think about this process in that way, that might help you. He goes
That's
on to
a
say
great
that
analogy.
you like that? Thank you.
Yes, very
You
good.
like that. Thank you. Oops, hold on one second. I have everybody muted just for now, but you can unmute yourselves as we go on, which is terrific because this is an interactive forum, and I want to make sure that we have questions, so you can raise your hand, you can wave at the screen, or you can raise your hand over on the side by your name, and you can jump in and say, hey, Pamela, I want to add a point or whatever, and I'm excited for that because this is how we all grow together. So he goes on to say, life is too short to chase unicorns. It's too precious to rely on a rabbit's foot. The real solution we seek are almost always hiding in plain sight. Unfortunately, they've usually been obscured by an unbelievable amount of bunk, an astounding flood of, quote, common sense that turns out to be nonsense. And that's really wild. When I heard that, common sense that turns out to be nonsense, because we are repeatedly told by others what they think we should be doing, right? They see us in what we're doing with building an empire, building a future for our children and our grandchildren to have a success. And they're telling us that what we're doing is wrong, right? And so that's just one example. And so we need to be able to overcome the common sense there to see it as nonsense. So he goes on to say that over time, myths and mistruths get thrown around so often they eventually feel familiar and start to sound like the truth. Tom Chenault will often tell us about the guy that sits on our shoulder that's whispering those things that could be from the voice of someone that we have known, have loved, have been very familiar with, and he's whispering in our ear, you can't do it. It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. And we need to punch that guy right in the nose, right? So I want you guys to think about that as we go through this, that these are the lies of success, right? Okay. Then we begin basing important decisions on those lies. The challenge we all face when forming our success strategies is that success has its own lies too. And we're going to go into the 6 lies over the next 2 weeks. The 6 lies about success that keep us from living the one thing are: 1, everything matters equally, right? Everything is an equal playing field. Everything's perfectly equal to one another. That's a lie. Okay, number 2, Lanny, multitasking. That's a lie, right? Okay, you're going to find out why. We're going to talk about that tonight. A disciplined life. And this is very interesting because we're going to understand the difference between a discipline and a habit. Number 4, the willpower is always on will call. 5, a balanced life. Have to keep everything in balance, right? Remember, the one thing is the one thing. That should be the most important thing. And 6, big is bad, right? Okay, so the 6 lies are beliefs that get into our heads and become operational principles driving us the wrong way. Have you ever gone on a trip to a place that you haven't been to before? And as you're traveling, and you may even be using GPS, and sometimes the GPS is outdated, and you can see it as you're driving, and you see the road is continuing in a certain way, and it's telling you to get off the road, or it's telling you to go straight when you know the road has to curve. And you're going, wait a minute, wait, hold on. I need to go that way. And then you have to go find a turnabout and figure your way to get back on the right path. That's exactly what these lies of success do to us. They put us on the wrong path. And so if we're going to maximize our potential, we're going to have to make sure we put these lies to bed. So now we're going to go on to chapter 4, which of course is about everything matters equally. And I love the quotes that are sprinkled throughout this text. Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. That's by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. And so I want you to keep in mind all of these little thoughts, and these should become things. If you can write them down, put them up on a mirror, put them up at your desk so that you can have things to remember as you go through this process. So Gary Keller goes on to say, equality is a worthy ideal pursued in the name of justice and human rights. In the real world of results, however, things are never equal. Okay, so no matter how a teacher grades, no 2 students are equal. No matter how fair officials try to be, contests are not equal. No matter how talented people are, no 2 are ever equal. A dime equals 10 cents, and people must absolutely be treated fairly. But in the world of achievement, everything doesn't matter equally. Equality is a lie. So you have to understand that this is the basis of all great decisions. And how do you decide? When you have a lot to get done in the day, how do you decide what to do first? Okay, so think about this. As kids, we did things we needed to do when it was time to do them, right? We had a very, very specific schedule. It's breakfast time. It's time to go to school, right? Time to do your homework, time to do chores. It's bath time, it's bedtime. We had these as consistencies that put us in a place of what we needed to do. We didn't really have a choice, right, as kids. Then we got a little bit older, right, and we were given a measure of discretion. You can go out and play as long as you get your homework done before dinner, right? So there's a cause, or there's a stipulation that goes along with it. And then later, as we become adults, everything became discretionary. It all became our choice. And when our lives are defined by our choices, the all-important question becomes, how do we make good ones? And that's where we mess up, right? We become overbooked, overextended, and overcommitted. Who's ever felt that way? I want to open up. So if you guys can, yeah, okay, so who wants to go first? Marianne, you shot your hand up first. Oh, I can't unmute you. You have to unmute yourself. There you go. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Can you hear me? The funny thing is, I have a leads group that I was at this morning, and we were talking about what are our challenges in business. And so everybody went around the room and talked about balance. Oh, I just need more balance. I just need more balance. And of course, I've been reading this, and that, that's just hogwash, right? About balance. And I think that's the thing is that it's kind of like what Sanjeev said about, you have to embrace the diet, right? Or you have to embrace it and just accept it. And so I think that's one of the things in my life, right? I'm always looking for balance. And then there's all this chaos. It's just driving me crazy. But now I'm embracing the chaos and knowing that in order for me to move forward over here, there might be some chaos over here. So
that's fabulous. Thank you. It's kind of funny because I remember in our 65 and a Wake Up, trainer Trish talked about embracing the suck. And it basically is a military concept where going through boot camp, basically you have to embrace the difficulty. You have to accept it because you have to go through it no matter what. So you might as well embrace it. And so embracing the chaos, it's almost like you can contain it in that way by embracing it. It no longer has power over you, right? You have power over it. And so I think that that's a really, really important thing to keep in mind is having that sense of understanding. And one thing I've always learned over the course of time is there's often a pendulum swing that's involved with any concept. And so when you're trying to get to a certain place of that centerline balance, you may start out way far on one side of the spectrum, and you have to allow it to swing all the way to the opposite side until at some point you can come back and achieve that center line, right? And so you have to be aware that things will happen, that you will come and ebb and flow in that concept. So I hope that will help. And I think, Dee, did you also have something you would like to add?
Oh, I think everybody can relate to a fact that you had too many commitments or too many things going on where you just feel absolutely overwhelmed. And with Marianne, like she says, if you don't embrace it, then the chaos just drives you crazy and you end up getting nothing done, even those things that are the most important. So yeah, you just might as well go with the flow. Otherwise it'll overwhelm you and nothing will get done.
I love that, because going with the flow, right? If you don't, you're going to get swept away. Actually, you know what? It's really kind of interesting. Growing up at the beach and living by the ocean even now, there's a thing called an undertow. If anyone's ever been to the ocean and have you dealt with an undertow, and what they tell you is don't try to swim against the undertow, because you're only going to exhaust yourself and you're putting yourself at greater risk. Better to swim alongside, parallel to the beach, until you get to a point where the undertow isn't happening. And so that's something really, really interesting to think about. I love that, Dee. So thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to talk about being overwhelmed? Colleen, I see you. Oh, wait, hold on. There you go.
So when you said about the whole purging and getting rid of things, when your whole world's cluttered, it's really hard to focus. So, that's part of what we're doing right now. We're trying to purge and get rid of things instead of holding us down, because it jails you in. It doesn't give you the room to breathe. But I like the way how you had said that I'm like hit home. So
awesome. Thank you for that. And you know what? I'm doing that too. I'm actually one of our kids' bedrooms, as now that they're growing. We only have one son that's still living at home with us, and so I'm kind of shifting from an open area office to a closed office. Right now, I'm in my son's room while I'm waiting for my other room as I'm putting it all together. But I'm going from place to place, and you really do need to have that special location to be able to function at your best, because there's a saying about you can see a clear mind as a cluttered desk, right? And that can be true for some cases, because some people are just so they know where everything is, but the truth of the matter is they don't have control over it, because you need to have that clarity. You need to have the simplicity to be able to go forward. So I see, Linda, you've got your hand raised. So let's see if I can unmute you. Let's see. I think you might need to unmute yourself there, Linda.
There, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Terrific. Glad to have you.
This is so funny that we're talking about this, because I'm sitting in my living room right now, and it is totes all over the place from Christmas. And I haven't taken them downstairs because I'm cleaning the basement and I'm reorganizing the total basement. And I can't add these to it until I know where they're going to go. So it just made more sense to leave them here before I take them downstairs. But it's the chaos of it all before the order.
There you go.
And
I love that.
Yeah.
Chaos before the order. Chaos. Hold on. Before the order. I love that. Thank you, Linda. That was beautiful. Wonderful. And that's true. Again, it's that cleansing. You need to make sure that things are in order, so you have to clear that out. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah, Peggy, you come on up.
I'm loving everyone's comments, because I'm relating to all of them. I know for me, if there is clutter anywhere near me, I will not be productive. But that's also on the computer as well. It's, you sign up for too many programs, or you're on too many Facebook pages, or that can be as much clutter as physical clutter. I think I cleared out over 5,000 emails one afternoon. Just cleared them out, filed them, got rid of them. Now it's less distraction. So I'm finding it affects me in all areas of my life. So I try to keep everything cleared up if I'm really serious about focusing, and I'm pretty darn serious right now. But
Amen.
It makes a big difference for me personally not to have a cluttered room, or a cluttered mind for that matter, because a cluttered mind is also just as bad. I do a lot of journaling and mindfulness. So we have to think about overwhelm, how it affects other areas, not just, what we're thinking, it's everything.
Absolutely. Thank you, sweetheart. Absolutely. All right. So now let's go on. Gary Keller continues to say, lacking a clear formula for making decisions, we get reactive, right? How often does that happen? We get reactive and fall back on familiar, comfortable ways to decide what to do. How about that? Things get so hairy, all of a sudden we just go back into okay. And it was interesting, because in the 1-star and above call today, Tom Chenault made reference to a confused mind does nothing. And I thought that was really fascinating too. It's that if you're confused, you're going to do nothing. You're not going to be able to pull it together. And that was really important, talking about how to manage one of the programs of going forward. So as a result, we haphazardly select approaches that undermine our success because we'd rather go back to something that's familiar than to have to deal with difficulty, especially in chaos, because we've become so accustomed to dealing with the chaos that we're going to do those same behaviors. In my practice of neuromuscular therapy, one of the things that I understand in the nervous system, aside from the brain, is very simplistic and kind of works on almost like a what is it, not decimal, but the dot 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 dash dash dash, what is that called, the Morse code. It operates kind of on a Morse code system. And so during the process, it's having this communication back and forth, and patients of mine would have these pain patterns that would happen over and over and over again, because even though a certain circuitry of the nervous system causes pain and causes them to not be able to function well, it happens just out of a course of habit. So I would explain to them about the therapy would help. It's kind of like living on a corner property. And if you don't have a fence on the corner, people will walk across your grass and wear a hole in the grass. And in order to stop that from happening, you have to put up a fence. So now they have to go in a different direction. And it's the same kind of a thing. We have to put up a barrier, a fence of what we're going to tolerate anymore in our lives, in our surroundings, and in our minds, just as Peggy was saying. So thank you for that. So what happens is the best decisions get traded for any decision, anything other than the right one. And what should be progress simply becomes a trap, that never-ending circle that can happen. When everything feels urgent and important, everything seems equal. We become active and busy, but this doesn't actually move us any closer to success. Activity is often unrelated to productivity, and busyness rarely takes care of business. Okay. Let's see. So what are we busy about? Knocking out 100 tasks for whatever the reason is a poor substitute for doing even one task that's meaningful. Success isn't a game won by whoever does the most. The things which are most important don't always scream the loudest. Isn't that interesting? And so often for me, when I'm praying, there has to be a source of peace where I can have that quiet and clear my mind so I can hear what God's plan is for me, what his direction is, what I'm supposed to be doing, as opposed to what I think I should be doing. And so that's something that's very, very critical, is to shut off all the noise that happens in our lives. And sometimes that's really hard when you have people in your life that are creating chaos around you, and they may not even understand what they're doing is problematic, but you need to be able to, with dignity and grace and love, be able to step out of it and choose to not participate in the chaos that's happening. And this takes practice, right? It's hard. Linda says, the computer has cluttered her life and she just wants to turn it off. And that may be, again, the swinging pendulum. You may need to turn it all the way off until you can come back to a point where it will be functional for you. A confused mind does nothing. Put up a fence in our minds of what we will tolerate. Absolutely. Okay, so much ado about nothing. We need to find you can have moments of clarity jotted down on paper. He's talking about to-do lists. Though lists are invaluable, they have a dark side. While to-dos serve as a useful collection of our best intentions, they also tyrannize us with trivial, unimportant stuff that we feel obligated to get done because it's on our list, right? Oh my goodness, if it's on the list, I have to get it done. And then you feel bad about it because you didn't get what was done on your list. And then you start self-deprecating. It becomes this horrible, horrible process. This is why we have that love-hate relationship with to-dos. If allowed, they set our priorities the same way an inbox can dictate our day. So tackling the tasks in the order we receive them is behaving as if the squeaky wheel immediately deserves the grease right now, as soon as it happens. Achievers, on the other hand, operate differently. They have an eye for the essential. They pause just long enough to decide what matters and then allow what matters to drive their day. Achievers do sooner what others plan to do later and defer perhaps indefinitely what others do sooner. Achievers always work from a clear sense of priority. I will tell you, this is the way that I got through 65 days in a wake up. I had to do it first thing in the morning, because if I didn't, I would have tripped and stumbled and gone through the little things that come up throughout the day, and I never would have made it through. So that's why if I were up at 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, if I happened to wake up and I had anything going on, I'm going to go to that and start doing a positive focus on it. And that was the way for me to do it, because I had intentionality. I planned the day, and I would say at the beginning of the day, here's my CSI 1, here's my CSI 2, and then I would come back and fill in all the details, because there was no way I was going to let that day go by without doing my 2 coffee shop interviews and my 1 3-way in a given day. And so that would be my recommendation to you, is when it comes to that point, get the stuff done first, right? So the to-do list can easily lead you astray. A to-do list is simply the things you think you need to do today. They inherently lack the intent of success. They're just survival lists, getting you through your day and your life, but not making each day a stepping stone for the next so that you can sequentially build a successful life. A full trash can and a clean desk are not virtuous and have nothing to do with success. To-do lists tend to be long, but success lists are short. That's fascinating to me. You do the right things, it's a little bit of stuff. Long to-do lists will wear you out and take forever, and you never get them accomplished, right? One, the to-do list will pull you in all directions, where the other, a success list, aims you in a very specific direction. One is a disorganized directory, and the other is an organized directive. If a list isn't built around success, then then that's not where it takes you. If your to-do list is taking you everywhere but where you really want to go, then we need to make a change. So, how do you decide what matters most? And then he goes on to talk about some different examples and predictability. And then he talks about a universal law. And he talks about Duran, who wrote the Quality Control Handbook. And he talked about the vital few and the trivial many. And he went on to explain Pareto's principle of unequal distribution. And it turns out it is as real as the law of gravity, and yet most people fail to see the gravity of it, how important it is, right? One of the greatest productivity truths ever discovered by Richard Koch is his book, 80-20 Principle. And it asserts that a minority of causes, inputs, or effort usually lead to a majority of the results, outputs, or rewards. Hence the simplicity of 65 days in a wake up, the 2 CSIs a day and 1 3-way, right? Can't get any simpler than that. Just doing it day after day after day, right? A small amount of causes create most of the results. Just the right input creates most of the output. Selected effort creates almost all of the rewards. And then he says the minority of your effort leads to the majority of your results. So the majority of what you want will come from the minority of what you do. Extraordinary results are disproportionately created by fewer actions than most realize. Don't get hung up on the numbers. Not everything matters equally. Some things matter more than others, a lot more. The to-do list becomes a success list when you apply Pareto's principle to it. And so it shows a little graph of the to-do list, and you have all these could do, could do, could do, and then there are the should do items that are there. And then you extract the should do items out. So those are those business building activities in our case, as far as building the business is concerned, if that's your focus. So a to-do list becomes a success list when you prioritize it, right? So you have to prioritize it, pick out the important things. And it may take you time to make this list to understand what are, because sometimes you don't even know. Sometimes you think that I have absolutely no clue what it is that I need to do. What is my most important one thing? And so starting out making lists can help you to fish out the stuff that are the could do and to find those should do items. A few ideas gave me most of my results, is what he goes on to say. A small number of people created most of my business success. Bam, as Doc Wallach would say. I'm not going to say it too loud and scare you, but those are your leaders, right? The small number of people create most of your business success, right? So think about that. Those are the ones, and Tom Chanel talks about that too, that he says that the ones that he calls first thing in the morning are those top leaders, because those are the ones that make a difference. And he wants to make sure, he's always said this, he will call them before the opposition does, right? Because they're the ones that everybody wants to have on their team. So he will reach out to them, give love to them, help them to understand how important they are, and then go from there. I just realized I didn't change my name. Hang on a second. I want to put me in here. There we go. Boink. Sorry about that. Okay, so when we talk about Pareto, now we can say there's an extreme Pareto, because he wants us to take that even further. Take it to an extreme. Go small by identifying the 20%. And then I want you to go even smaller by finding the vital few of the vital few. So if you go from 25 on your list to 20% of that to 5, and 20% of that to just 1, think about that, finding that one thing. No matter how many to-dos you start with, you can always narrow it to 1. And this is where it kind of helped me to think about it in a mathematical term of an asymptote. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but it's where a curve is continually coming closer to a point, and that asymptote doesn't actually touch the point. So the point in this instance would be 0. So you want to get it down as low as you possibly can to that one thing. And so for me, that visual of that curve getting down as close as you can, and we're extrapolating. We want to extend the application assuming existing trends. So as you go further and further in the process, you're going to make it be more intense. Kind of think of it about what we do with essential oils, right? They are very, very intensified, scents, oils, herbals that you don't need very much to have a very big effective result. It's the same kind of a concept. So like you'd need 1 drop of essential oil, you need one thing to find that level of success. So keep going. You can actually take 20% of the 20% of the 20% and continue until you get to the single most important thing. Develop the mindset that you will whittle your way from there to the critical few and not stop until you end with that essential one, the one thing. So one idea out of 100 is Pareto to the extreme. That's thinking big, but going very, very small, and applying that one thing to a business challenge in a truly powerful way. The inequality of effort for results is everywhere in your life if you will simply look for it. And if you apply this principle, it will unlock the success you seek in anything that matters to you. This can be critical to your business, to your family life, to your personal relationships. There's so many different things, to your spirituality, to your relationship with God, all those things that you can do. What can be the one thing that would be more important for you in whatever it is that you're trying to grow in, right? There will always be just a few things that matter more than the rest, and out of those, one will matter most. And internalizing this concept is like being handed a magic compass And this is something that I learned from a trainer friend of mine, Mark Januszewski, is you need to follow the compass, not the clock, okay? Basically, your direction matters. As long as you keep going in the right direction, you will get there. Again, 65 days and a wake up. If you keep going there every single day in the right direction, you will get there. Will there be times that you stumble and fall back and may have to start again? Absolutely. It's a difficult process, but you're growing. Even if you were to go back to day one, you're still better than you were on your first day one. So I want you to always remember that. So follow that compass. I actually have on my desk a little compass to remind me of that. It's a play compass from my kids, like a little toy thing. But I always have it there on a little keychain, and it's there to remind me to always keep going in the right direction. So here are the big ideas from this chapter 4. Go small. Focus on being productive. Allow what matters most to drive your day. Go extreme. That core activity goes at the top of your success list. Say no. Not now to anything else you could do until your most important work is done. And sometimes that has to be said to a person, and sometimes it has to be said to yourself, right? And sometimes that's the toughest, because you have that little guy on your shoulder that's trying to tell you, and you think it's a part of you, and it's trying to tell you to do something contrary to what is going to give you the most success. And so you have to learn how to say no. Excuse me. Don't get trapped in the checkoff game, right? If we believe things don't matter equally, we must act accordingly. Sometimes it's the first thing you do. Sometimes it's the only thing you do. Regardless, doing the most important thing is always the most important thing, okay? So have any questions here before we go on to chapter 5? Okay. All right. Chapter 5. Where's my Lanny Lou? Did we lose Lanny Lou? Oh, we lost Lanny.
I don't see her.
She left. She left us. All right. Well,
I know she was multitasking.
Here we go. That's where we are right now. Chapter 5, multitasking. Okay. Publilius Cyrus, to do two things at once is to do neither. So if doing the most important thing is the most important thing, why would you try to do anything else at the same time? Oh, no, Peggy. No, tired. Don't be tired. Remember, this is about a study where they began with the presumption that the frequent multitaskers would perform better. They were wrong. I was sure they had some secret ability, said Nass, who was part of this study. But it turns out that high multitaskers are suckers for irrelevancy. They were outperformed on every measure. Oh, my goodness. To quote, multitaskers were just lousy at everything. Ooh, ouch. That hurts. Multitasking is a lie. Ooh.
This is hurting quite a bit. I just want you to know.
This is hurting you quite a bit?
Quite a bit.
Is this painful? I know.
Very painful.
And as I look through, we're almost all women, okay? And women are almost forced to multitask, especially if we're parents, right? It's really hard because we have constant things going on. And if you think about the way a man's mind works versus the way a woman's mind works, there's the old joke about men have boxes in their mind, right? And they could be in only one box at a time. And they actually have a nothing box. And I talked to my husband about this, and I think it's hysterical to know, hi, Keith, that men do have a nothing box. So you can look at a man and he could be staring off into space, and we're saying they've got to be thinking about something. What are you thinking about? And they go, I'm not thinking about anything. Who has had this experience, right? I'm thinking about nothing, right? I'm in the nothing box. And it's true. But women's brains are like a tangle of these interconnected wires, and they're just constantly going on and on and on. And so this is a difficult thing that we really need to train ourselves to do. And when we have other people, whether they be children or large children or adults that we happen to spend a lot of time with, that take up a lot of our efforts, we have to understand that, you know, that we're being forced to multitask. Yes, Peggy, it's like tangled Christmas tree lights. One goes out and they all go out.
Pamela?
Yes, ma'am.
There's a book, it's probably about 20 years old now. It's called Men Are Like Waffles and Women Are Like Spaghetti.
Oh, I like that.
Their thoughts are in the little hole in the waffle. And when you jump to a new topic, they have to leave that hole and go to the next box and then go operate in there. Where we're like a plate of spaghetti where everything is tangled together and it just all interweaves. And so anyway, it's a book about communication, but it was just explaining how women tend to think versus how men tend to think.
I love it. Thank you, Linda. That's wonderful. And you know what? It's really funny because I know how I am. I think about spatiality a lot. And so when I'm doing things in the house, I'll think, okay, I've got this part of the laundry done. And when I take this from here where I folded everything, and I'm going to go put this back in this room in the drawer, while I'm in there, I'm going to go pick this up, and then I'm going to go back. And then so it becomes this constant flurry of activity. And oh my gosh, I have my one star and above call, but wait, I have to take Gavin to college. And it's like back and forth and back and forth. So yeah, Colleen, you have something. What you have, honey bun?
Well, I'm always like the squirrel, you know, like the movie Up. I'm like the dog squirrel. You know, I get on a task and then all of a sudden it's like squirrel and I'm on something else. So that's the way my multitasking takes me. It's crazy, but
I love it. Thank you. And Marianne, I'm chuckling over here. A man wrote this book, right? You know what, though? It's funny because, we say this tongue in cheek. There are differences that all men and all women are not created equal. Remember, there's nothing is equal, right? So we do have differences in ourselves. And so there is a sensitivity that can happen with guys, and there is a more prioritized female out there in the world that knows. But yes, ma'am.
So, Dave Brisky did a call one time, and he was talking about that because he said that, there's different things, like there's a multitasking, like you're driving down the road and, we probably shouldn't be doing all the things that we're doing when we're driving, but that might not be a good example. But what I'm saying is that there's some things that we can do and we can multitask, but on the project, where we have to really give focus, then we can't be doing all the other stuff. And that's what I'm recognizing in myself. I'm the squirrel, I'm the shiny thing. And so if you can imagine, because Tom, is much the same way. And so, we kind of have to pull ourselves in and go, okay, wait. Now, are we really going to go over here and do all this? Or should we just keep, on this path right there? So just getting that concept of what it looks like to focus and accomplish something versus at the end of the day. And of course, Dee and I were in Dan Walschmidt's class, and that was some really great training as well. And he said, you pick one big project or 3 medium projects or 5 small projects, right? But this is me. I'm the one big project, the 3 medium projects, and the 5 small projects, all in one day. So recognizing that it's okay, and again, accepting the chaos, Peggy, and being able to just relate and go, you know what, this is, I'm putting the, if you have any concept of what's going on with this Dr. Wallach event and what Glenn is doing, and, the university life, and, all of these things. And so I just had to say, okay, today I've got to get this done. That's that one thing. And so it's been good. It's been good. I read this book before, but I didn't really take it like I'm taking it now, like I'm absorbing it. And so there are certain things I have to accept. I can multitask, but that's certain things. That's not the big focus thing, if that makes sense.
It does. And actually, we're going to go into the detail of that exactly, which is really true. It depends upon the task itself of how well we can function through multitasking. Okay, so, all right. So with going into, let's see, multitasking is neither efficient nor effective. In the world of results, it will fail you every time, right? It is merely the opportunity to screw up more than one thing at a time, Steve Uzzell said. Great. Yay. Great. So when you try to do two things at once, you either can't or won't do either well. It's an effective way to get less done. And then he goes on to talk about the monkey mind, right? Multitasking, understand historically, is about multiple tasks alternately sharing one resource, a CPU. So this is a computer term. That's where multitasking came from. So in time, the context was flipped and it became interpreted to mean multiple tasks being done simultaneously by one resource, a person. So even computers can process only one piece of code at a time. When they multitask, they switch back and forth, alternating their attention until both tasks are done. What we can't do is focus on two things at once. This is where we can have what Marianne was talking about, dangerous distractions. One of them being, of course, driving and texting, right? That's a dangerous distraction because you need to be doing that important task in order to be safe, and you can't have your attention taken away from it, right? There are potential tragedies, and people are trying to do too many things at once and forget to do something they should do, right? It's not that we have too little time to do all the things we need to do. It's that we feel the need to do too many things in the time we have. Distraction, disturbance, disruption. Staying on task is exhausting, but we're fooling ourselves. Multitasking is a scam. And Billy Collins summed it up well, talking about multitasking and saying that a Buddhist would call this monkey mind. We think we're mastering multitasking, but we're just driving ourselves bananas, right? And so it's this craziness. If you've ever watched a monkey and they get goofy, and that's kind of what we do when we start to multitask, we really get goofy about how we handle ourselves. Hey, Miss Emily. She gets to stay up late because she has no school tomorrow because of snow. Yay! Juggling is an illusion. So if we talk about multitasking, let's now talk about juggling. With an average of 4,000 thoughts a day flying in and out of our heads, it's easy to see why we try to multitask. If a change in thought every 14 seconds is an invitation to change direction, then it's rather obvious we're continually tempted to try to do too much at once. But juggling isn't multitasking. Juggling is an illusion. In reality, the balls are being independently caught and thrown in rapid succession. There's a catch, a toss, a catch, a toss, a catch, a toss, one ball at a time. It's what researchers refer to as task switching, okay? It doesn't save time. It actually wastes time about multitasking. It always takes some time to start a new task and restart the one you quit. So this is, Marianne, what we're talking about when we have 1, 3, 5 going on, right? There's no guarantee you'll ever pick up exactly where you left off. There's a price for this. The cost in terms of extra time from having to task switch depends on how complex or simple the tasks are. So something that's relatively simple, like doing the laundry because it's something we've done day in and day out, year after year after year, right? That's something you can simply multitask from and to. But you're not going to lose it. Like, you're not going to go, oh, wait a minute. Do I know how to fold this shirt? Do I know what color socks go together? Right? That's not such a big deal. But when you're doing things that are important and you start to pull away from them, it takes more time to get back into your train of thought. So It can range from time increases of 25% or less for simple tasks to well over 100% or more for very complicated tasks. Task switching exacts a cost, and we hardly ever realize that we're doing that. So then we talk about brain channels. We're actually doing two things at once. We've separated them. Our brain has channels. One is happening in the foreground and the other in the background. You can do two things at once, but you can't focus effectively on two things at once, right? Have you ever been driving in the car, talking to someone on the phone, and you're going back and forth to a place that you frequent often? It could be your home or your work, and all of a sudden you realize you're there. Does that ever freak anybody out that you're like, I don't even know how I got here? And, you know, you could be on a highway, you could be whatever, but it's that familiarity, even just from listening, talking to someone, or even you could be listening to music on the radio. It's something that's distracting you from paying attention to what you're doing, right? So take on two things and your attention gets divided. Take on a third and something gets dropped. The problem of trying to focus on two things at once shows up when one task demands more attention or if it crosses into a channel already in use. So if we're talking about simple tasks, it's not such a big deal. But more complex tasks, if it interferes with another complex task, all of a sudden things get jumbled, things get forgotten. And when you have a high intensity coming into play, whether that's with another individual or with, you know, different things happening at the same time, that's when mistakes occur, you know. So, you know what, Peggy, I'd like to ask you a question. Being a nurse, can you talk about this in relation to the amount of patients a nursing floor might have or nurses in a station might have?
I can tell you what my caseload was when I was working on the floors as a case manager. I would have 72 patients that I had to deal with on a single weekend shift. And that's why, you know, all this is very relative. I am no longer on the floors, but it's scary. It's very scary for nurses or anyone in healthcare to have that many patients. Now, a bedside nurse might have 6 patients or 4 patients. It depends on the unit. But you can get distracted very easily because you might have to sit in conversations with the family while another one is on the call bell or another one needs medication. So it's very, very stressful. And nurses are probably, as far as percentage, they're probably the one profession that multitasks the most because you have to get stuff done. You don't have it.
But yet lives are at stake.
Exactly. It's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's terrible. And one of the reasons I left doing what I was doing.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that. I just knew it had to be some sort of an absurd number because, you know, truthfully, I would think that there would be a fewer, you know, smaller ratio. And that's an unfortunate thing. You know?
Yeah, it just depends on, I mean, I've seen nurses on the oncology floor have 4 to 6, and that's hard. That's really hard. And
maybe pediatrics and ICU.
No, ICU is 1 or 2, depending.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah, if you have a high intensity, you're only going to have 1 nurse. Sometimes 2 nurses to 1 patient, depending on like cardiothoracic surgery and trauma and stuff like that. So it just depends. But, you know, we tried generally, like NICU, the step-down unit, the most you could have was maybe 4, but it was a step-down unit. It was okay.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. All right, girls, let's see. So let's go on. I say girls, but we still have Vincent with us, so forgive me. All right, so let's see, dividing up our focus and dumbing down all of the outcomes in the process. This is every time we try to do 2 or more things at once. That's what happens. You'll pay a price in time and effectiveness. The more time you spend switching to another task, the less likely you are to get back to your original task. This is how loose ends pile up. Bounce between one activity and another, and you lose time as your brain reorients to the new task. So it's going to take time for you to get back in the swing of that previous task once you return to it. Chronic multitaskers develop a distorted sense of how long it takes to get things done. Have you ever thought about that? When you're really good at planning your time, all of a sudden you're getting things done much faster than you thought you could. But when you're multitasking, you think one particular chore or activity is going to take a lot longer because you've thrown in other things in the middle that's going to give it the appearance of being a longer period of time from beginning to end, because you may look at the clock and say, well, I started this at 9 and now it's 3. But really the thing only took an hour to get completed. And so you have to stop and think about that. And that's why it's very important to manage out your time and set yourself a calendar of timing of when to do to get things done. Okay. Multitaskers make more mistakes than non-multitaskers. They make poor decisions because they favor new information over old. That's the mermaid and the shiny object syndrome, or the squirrel, right? Things come along and distract us. Even if the older information is more valuable. So we'll go for the new shiny thing rather than the old tried and true. Multitaskers experience more life-reducing, happiness-squelching stress. That made me very sad. Like it's not bad enough. We're doing too many things, and then we end up in a worse situation with how we feel about ourselves and the world. Media multitaskers actually experience a thrill when switching, a burst of dopamine that can be addictive. That's interesting. Without it, they can feel bored. Multitasking slows us down and makes us slower-witted. Hang on for just a second.
I just can't agree with all of this. I'm just saying. No.
That's tough. That was my hubby, so I'm sorry I had to multitask. I'm going to switch for a second. He's on his way home.
I was thinking about this. I'm like, okay, this is so harsh. But
it hurts, right? You said that before. This is painful.
Very painful.
I know.
But I do agree with, parts of it.
When you hear it, can you look and recognize it in your life? Yes,
I can.
Yeah.
Is this therapy now?
This is, honey, this is all what it's about. This is the safe place here. It is. This is therapy. And we see it and we're like, oh my gosh, I remember that loose end was left behind because I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And, like we talk about clearing our space. How long would it actually take if we were to just dedicate the specific time to getting it done, right? And that's to say that you have the physical capacity, the wherewithal, and the resources to do something. But if we just hunker down and do it, and that's interesting too, because it's one of the other things that Mark Januszewski taught me in a program that I went through with him, is that when you accomplish things on a daily basis, you feel better about getting other things done. So you start to reward yourself for things that are maybe minor, and you can set an idea to get done, like, oh, I'm going to A, put away the Christmas decorations, or B, I'm going to clean out my closet, right? Things like that. And when you accomplish them, it could be something as simple as, I made my bed this morning, right? If you can say every day, I made my bed. And this, I actually learned this from a military guy who came and spoke at our church. And he was saying that no matter what, at least if you make your bed in the morning, you've accomplished something. And so it's very important to feel good about accomplishing things, even if it says, I just took my Christmas decorations down on Sunday and I'm not all the way done. I have my mother-in-law coming in the morning to have therapy here, speaking of therapy, to do neuromuscular therapy. And I just dragged the tree out into the garage, and I just took all the Christmas decorations and put them into the little place where I keep them. So I'm officially done for Christmas until next year. But it's funny, and sometimes it takes something else to push us, right? And so setting goals and setting dates and times. And so if your greatest fear is about having people come over to do an event at your house, set an appointment for one. Make the time and create the urgency to get it done. And so if you do that, you now have a deadline. And so maybe you'll be more likely to avoid the multitasking and get done the chore that needs to get finished. We're almost finished here. We're just going to finish chapter 5. Okay, let's see. So now we're slow-witted. Now we know we're not getting anything done, and we're stupid. So we feel really good about ourselves today, right? So now here's the other thing that's really important. Do we not value our own job or take it as seriously? Why would we ever tolerate multitasking when we're doing our most important work? Your work deserves no less respect. We each not only have a job to do, but a job that deserves to be done well. If we really lose almost a third of our workday to distractions, what is the cumulative loss over our career? Ooh, wow. So the people we live with and work with on a daily basis deserve our full attention. When we give people segmented attention, piecemeal time, switching back and forth, the switching cost is higher than just the time involved. We end up damaging relationships, right? So again, this is not just about our career in longevity. This is not just about being more successful, getting things done. This is about success in all aspects of our life, in our relationships. And so some of you and I have talked about the importance of creating a sacred space for relationship building with our family, whether it's with our children, our spouses, our parents. All those things are very, very important to give respect to. And you need to, right? It also can affect your health, right? So we need to make sure that we pay attention to the things that matter and give it the respect that it deserves. So the big idea is the summary of this chapter 5. Distraction is natural. It's not going to go away. They're going to be there. Everyone gets distracted, so don't feel bad about that. Multitasking takes a toll. Distraction leads to poor choices, painful mistakes, and unnecessary stress. Distraction undermines results. When you try to do too much at once, you can end up doing nothing well. Figure out what matters most in the moment and give it your undivided attention. It's never possible to do, although multitasking is sometimes possible, it's never possible to do it effectively. And so that's where we're going to end tonight. So we've covered a couple chapters. So for next week, we're going to cover chapters 6 and 7. How about that? We'll try the 2 chapters because I think there's so much important material in here. I don't want to shorten it and go in because we could have gone through the 3, but I think the communication is just as, if not more important. So with all of that, anyone have any questions or comments that you'd like to add? Just unmute yourself or raise your hand.
I just want to say I've loved this, and I thank you again, Pamela.
Thank you.
But multitasking is not an easy thing to stop because think about it. If we've been doing it our whole lives, it's going to take a lot of skill and patience, more patience than skill. Well, skill too, because, our brains are still firing all the time and they're thinking about this. And so, I just want to add, I think that's something to pay attention to. It's a process.
It is. Thank you very much for sharing that. And thank you for being here. I just cherish all of you to be here with me. I just love you. And I'm so grateful that you allow me to come into your homes in the evening and to work on this together because we all grow from each other. Anybody else have anything that you want to share, comment, or ask? Okie doke. Well, we're just after 9 o'clock. Awesome, Marianne. Thank you for all you do. Thank you so much, honey.
Thank you. Have a good
Love
week,
you.
everyone. God bless.
Love you all. Be safe. There's a lot of icy, snowy weather going on all around the country, so please be careful.
Yes, you too.
All right. Talk to you.
Hey, everybody.
All
See
right.
you next week.
Thank you. Bye, Nancy.
Goodbye.
Love you. Bye.
Have a good evening.
All right. Bye, Vincent. Sorry, I'll have to talk to Vincent, make sure that we
We didn't scare him too much, right? Bye, guys.